Give me a second. My bad, I'm just checking to make sure my mic is working. Anyway, what's up? I'm KallaTheYapper and I'm back with another reaction. Today, I'm going to react to a video made by the Gacha DG2. Now, I already know who this content creator is because some of their videos I put on my playlist to videos to react to, which I might react to those, might not, we'll see. But the only reason I'm about to react to this video is because I noticed that Fox Soul, tonight is October 8th, and he's streaming right now, and I noticed that he was reacting to this video, and I was watching a little bit more of his Fox Soul's reaction, and at one point in this video, this content creator in particular says something that I found to be really dumb. So that's the thing that kind of encouraged me to react to this video. Like, I was already encouraged to watch this content creator's content and give my takes about him, about the content in particular, or the things he said in his content, and see whether or not it's something I agree with or something I disagree with. And already, I got sparked with the disagreement immediately. So we're gonna start this reaction as fast as possible and hopefully not linger on this for too long. Anyway, so let's start the video. The title of the video is Genshin Impact Devs Gave Up. Now, let's see if that's actually true. Because from where I'm standing, as a semi-casual player, I disagree with this.
Let's see how Gacha PvP is doing. Yep, we're right where we should be. I can't wait to spend $20,000 on the next units so we can stay ahead of all the trash. I know that might be sarcasm, but don't say I didn't try to give Genshin its flowers. I did say there were good things about the game, but soon Genshin Impact is going to get to the point where characters might as well have an expiration date on them. Genshin Impact is the model for the gacha industry, no matter how much you love it or hate it.
Well, we guess that's true because, you know, Withering Waves is dealing with power creep and HP inflation. You know, the same thing people were bitching about Genshin, Star Rail, and even Zenless for having. And now, guess what? Withering Waves has it. You know, the game that people act like is God Savior to the world. So, I guess he's right about that.
Or hate it. So whatever they do, everyone else will follow. In fact, this would be the perfect time for the Genshin Impact dev team to get their shit together, because for once, it seems like the interest for WUWA is pretty low, at least in the media. So let's ask ourselves a question. How does Genshin Impact capitalize off of the interest for their biggest competitor being this low? By requiring you to skip rent once a month when your favorite character's partner comes out? Oh, wait.
Oh, wait. Didn't Withering Waves do that same shit, bro? How are we going to sit here and complain and criticize Hoyo for doing this when Withering Waves just recently did this crap? My nigga, are we fucking serious? They did this with Zanny and Phoebe. They did this with Shakona and KallaTheYapper. Do you see a pattern? They did it twice. And they did it with Augusta and Yuno. I would love to know, how is this a Hoyo exclusive issue to release the support team member of the new DPS when Withering Waves has done the exact same shit? Don't get, and let's not make even, hold up, let me even mention this. Star Rail has done this, Zenless has done this, and like I said before, Withering Waves has done this as well. This is not an exclusive Genshin issue. And it's not even an exclusive Hoyoverse issue. Shoot, if I'm being honest with y'all, this is not even an issue to begin with. Oh, they released the best in slot team member the month prior? Yeah, no shit. We're playing a gacha game where you have to pull for characters. They got their best in slot teams, and then they have their least best in slot teams. You know, just par for the course for a gacha game. That tells you need to spend, you know, money to acquire pulls to then pull for characters so they can have their best in slot teams. Oh wow, what a new concept.
Wait, don't worry. You can pull a C1 to make him viable without this robot that nobody wanted. So that's right. For
robot nobody wanted, but yet people still pull for it, right?
all of you that forgot Theorycraft, that
let's rewind.
Would be that nobody wanted. So that, don't worry, you can pull a C1 to make him viable without this robot that nobody wanted. So that's right. For all of you that forgot to Theorycraft that a Nepha would be required for a DPS that was coming out in the future, all you have to do is pull for an extra copy of him. No big deal, right? And you might as well go for that weapon while you're at it. Oh, and I'm not done yet. He needs a Nodcry unit too. With the weather
He said he needs a non-credit unit, and then completely, not acknowledge the fact that, I know a hydro character that you get for free for playing the game, right? You can slap her on to Flynn's team so that he can do his whole electro charge thing, his lunar charge thing, right? On top of that, the moon sign blessing that non-credit characters have. If Ino is on the team by herself, you get version 1 of the moon sign thing. But if you have another non-credit character, you get version 2 of the moon sign thing, which buffs the entire team. Not just Flynn's and Ino, but also the rest of the team as well. Conveniently that, he's not mentioning that. Very interesting. For someone who talks a lot about these games, I would expect them to, give all the information related to the games and not, be, not mentioning things that they should be mentioning. Very interesting. Anyway, let's continue.
PS that was coming out in the future. All you have to do is pull for an extra copy of them. No big deal, right? And you might as well go for that weapon while you're at it. Oh, and
I don't think his weapon is necessary.
I'm not done yet. He needs a Nodcry unit too. With the Wuthering Waves being on his back.
Again, like I said, you get Ino for free.
Weapon while you're at it. Oh, and I'm not done yet. He needs a Nodcry unit too. With the Wuthering Waves being on his back foot recently, this game has had a serious chance to earn back some of their audience. But the devs refuse to address some of the aging problems in this game. Genshin used to get
such as
much praise for its 4-star roster, and it was well deserved. Kudro Sara used to be a great 4-star option for Raiden, if not the best back in the day, but it doesn't matter because the Archon got power crept into oblivion, and we don't want to.
I keep hearing this talk about, Raiden getting power crept. But if we're being fucking for real, if I'm being honest, I'm pretty sure Raiden wasn't even the strongest electro DPS of her element. People keep mentioning Varissa, but then somehow not mentioning Chlorinde that came out before Varissa by a whole couple months. Did people not think Chlorinde power crept Raiden Shogun? I don't even use Raiden Shogun as a DPS. I use Raiden Shogun as a freaking support unit for electro application and building up that energy ring so that it'll increase the elemental burst damage. I'm pretty sure that's what that ring does for my other characters. I do not know anyone who uses Raiden Shogun as a DPS. I don't even think Raiden Shogun was even meant to be used as a DPS. Raiden Shogun feels like a character that's meant to be used as a freaking sub DPS and a support unit, in my opinion, and an applicator.
Well deserved. Kudro Sara used to be a great 4-star option for Raiden, if not the best back in the day, but it doesn't matter because the Archon got power crept into oblivion. And we don't want to buff Archons because then how are we going to sell this random character we've never heard of up until a month ago? And the worst part about...
And he's mentioned Varissa. But again, what exactly does Raiden Shogun need to be buffed with? What is Raiden Shogun lacking that she needs buffing, right? It's... One thing that irritates me the most, I know I'm only a minute into this video, but things that irritate me the most when people sit here and give complaints about XYZ about Genshin, they don't bother going into depth about it. Like he just said, oh, they don't want to buff Archons. But then he doesn't even go in depth about buffing Archons. What Archon needs to be buffed? Raiden Shogun? What exactly does she need to be buffed with? What exactly is she lacking? We know Zhongli is covered. We don't even need to worry about Zhongli. We don't even need to worry about freaking Malvika. She's good as is. What about Nahida? What is Nahida lacking? I don't know, but she's good as is. What about Farina? What is Farina lacking? Don't know because he doesn't give an example of it because she's good as is. Now, the only one we could argue that needs a buff is Venti, but then again, I'd have to ask, what exactly is Venti needing to be buffed for? What exactly is he lacking in his buffs? Or lacking in his buffs, or rather, what things do he need buffed is what I meant to say. But anyway, let's continue.
How are we going to sell this random character we've never heard of up until a month ago? And the worst part about 4 stars not having pity is that Genshin will probably never change this because they might make even more money off of this than they do the 5 stars. Really dedicated players are going to continue to pull on a banner even after they get that limited 5-star because certain team compositions need a C6 4-star character. It's no coincidence that some of the most recent ones, being Chevreuse and Yansan, are pivotal in certain team comps. Genshin is about to get into a problem that Star Rail has had for years. A vertical investment dumpster fire. C1s are already extremely powerful, or even just...
He points out 2 characters out of a roster of a whole bunch of 4-star characters. and says that we're about to have a problem because of this. I didn't hear any problem related to 4 stars in Star Rail relating to, oh, they need to be C6 in order to be good, or in order to like provide what they need for the team. I didn't hear no talk like that. Mind you, I played Star Rail a year after everyone else did. But the issue I heard relating to 4 stars in Star Rail wasn't even the performance of this 4 star. It was simply because of the fact that this 4 star in question, they were lacking 4 stars.
Recent ones being Chevreuse and Yansan are pivotal in certain team comps.
Also, I haven't used a Yansan because Yansan kind of difficult for me to understand how she plays. But Chevreuse is really easy to understand.
Need a C6 4-star character. It's no coincidence that some of the most recent ones being Chevreuse and Yansan are pivotal.
Most recent, Chevreuse came out like back in version 4 something. We're in version 6.0. Recent? That's not recent. Yansan is recent.
Coincidence that some of the most recent ones being Chevreuse and Yansan are pivotal in certain team comps. Genshin is about to get into a problem.
Certain team comps. He meant to say overload team. Verissa. No, my bad, not Verissa. Chevreuse. Chevreuse is needed for only one team type in the entire game. The way he's talking like it's multiple teams. No, she doesn't. She just needed for one team, and that's overload. That's the only team that she wants to be in. Yansan, I'm not really sure about Yansan. Yansan, I feel like she just want to be on the team with other Natlan units and or, the overload team with Chevreuse.
And Yansan are pivotal in certain team comps. Genshin is about to get into a problem that Star Rail has had for years. A vertical investment dumpster fire. C1s are already extremely powerful, or even just fixed character restrictions. I first noticed it whenever Natlan first came out with Mualani. I got 2 in my first 10 pull, by the way.
But I was like 30 pity. Let's go.
No way! But her C1 is an absolute game changer in not only damage, but exploration QOL. The overpowered C1s started even earlier than that when Nuvalet released. And a character like Chiori literally has her kit fixed by her C1. If you have realized how crazy the damage increases and now even the QOL enhancements are that these new constellations get, and you see these new...
The QOL enhancement thing has not been nothing new to Genshin. The oldest character who has a quote-unquote QOL when it comes down to the quote-unquote exploration ability, case in point, Yelan, she gets like an extra bit of time or duration for her elemental skill, which some people use for like exploration, right? That's been nothing new. That's been in the game for years now. This isn't some new trend, I'd argue. This is something that's been in the game for years now for any character. But anyway,
by her C1. If you have realized how crazy the damage increases and now even the QOL and
when we're talking about characters having increased damage thanks to their constellations, why are we being surprised by that? Like, yeah, no shit. If I were to get extra copies of this DPS character, I should expect their damage to increase. And this goes for any Hoyo game and either in Withering Waves. This is not some thing that's... I'd argue that that's not even a bad thing. Again, we are playing a gacha game that tells us to spend pull for characters. This isn't Anata where they're not going to have any gacha. This isn't Fate Samurai Remnant, a non-gacha game that allows for me to play as any character in the game and like level up their skills and abilities whenever the F I want to. Right? We have to pull for these characters and their constellations. Because again, this is a gacha game.
Enhancements are that these new constellations get, and you see these new constellations having bigger incentives to pull also because of level 100. I'm sure you can see where this is going. Genshin and HSR have been bouncing predatory ideas off of each other for a while now. HSR has ridiculous power creep and HP inflation. Genshin completely blows up.
I've been hearing that this HP inflation thing has been flip-floppy recently and is not as bad as people are claiming it to be still to this day. And people have kind of overblown this. Now, I haven't tried that new game mode that came out for Star Rail, because I know that thing more than likely has crazy HP inflation. But that one game mode shouldn't be used to define the entire game. Just as how his onslaught shouldn't be the thing that defines, the entire game mode of Genshin Impact either. In terms of, let's quote unquote, HP inflation.
Genshin and HSR have been bouncing predatory ideas off of each other for a while now. HSR has ridiculous power creep.
Kind of crazy that we're not going to mention how Withering Waves seemingly has, followed suit behind that as well. Interesting.
And HP inflation. Genshin completely blows up 4 years of balance on January 1st, 2025. Genshin introduces a useless whale endgame mode. HSR releases Anomaly Arbitrage. HSR creates characters that literally require their Eidolons to last longer than a month. Do you see where I'm going with this? Speaking of shit that nobody asked for, is anyone excited for user-generated content?
I'm gonna say it right now, because this is one of the reasons why I wanted to react to this video. First and foremost, I'm gonna be honest with you. People have been talking about user-generated content and wanting to have that in the game since, what was it, version 4.5, 4.6? Where the whole, 3 singular wishes for 3 years of players, playing the game. Which, if we're being fucking for real, people completely blew up over nothing, honestly, because those 3 singular wishes were not 3 singular wishes. Those were 13 wishes. So that was a 10 pull plus 3 extra pulls. But somehow people forgot about that and wanted to only mention 3 pulls. Crazy. But anyway, user-generated content has been, back then, during version 4.6 or 4.5, people have been asking for user-generated content ever since it was leaked, that this was something that Hoyoverse, or in particular, the Genshin dev team, was seeking to implement into the game. So now, we're now in 6.0 of Genshin, ever since version 4.5 or 4.6, and they're now implementing said thing that was leaked that they were gonna do like a year ago, like a year or some change ago. And people want this user-generated content, because another thing too is that Genshin has made limited time events that are user-generated content. There were ones where you had to set up a little battlefield to like stop abyss monsters from like reaching your portal, or like those little dungeon domains where you have to run around hopping from platform to platform, collecting coins and like dodging obstacles and whatnot in order to like clear at a fast time. Like stuff like that. They've done this in the game before. So now that they're implementing it, what's the issue? Why are we saying that no one wants to play this? Maybe you don't want to play it, but saying that people never wanted this is a bold-faced lie. Give me a second. But anyway, let's continue.
Crazy made it, where you at?
And why are we acting like this wouldn't be fun to do? Again, why are we complaining about this? And no, let's also be for real. Genshin gave itself the leeway to even be able to put out content like this that's user-generated content, right? If Withering Waves were to put out some user-generated content type stuff, people would have an issue with it because it's not combat-based events. Let's be honest. People want combat in Withering Waves. They don't want puzzle games. They don't want stuff like this. People want combat in Withering Waves because combat is the main focus and core thing of Withering Waves. Genshin, on the other hand, Genshin allowed for itself to expand beyond just being combat-focused game. It's like, oh, we're story-based, we're exploration-based. We have fun little mini-games, this, that, and the third, right? And so now they're creating a permanent game mode, which is this, and it's like, yeah, this is here to stay. Even like some music-related events have become permanent, or rather, the music itself has become permanent. Those little functions related to like, tapping the notes or whatever, that became permanent, and that's in the game right now. And it's been in the game since what, version 5.6, I believe? Or not, yeah, 5.6.
The fuck is you, bro?
Now, granted that the UGC is a legitimate sandbox mode, this could be pretty good for Genshin. But let me ask you a question. Would you rather user-generated content or Genshin Impact solving 90% of its problems right now?
Both. Why do I need to choose between one or the other? I want both. And let's be real, most people will say both. Anybody saying, oh, fix the problems, don't implement this, is being a cornball. Both need to exist. And it's also, I would love to know what exactly are 90% of Genshin's problems. Because if we're being honest, most of Genshin problems seem like 10% rather than 90%.
Exactly. People play this game for what they've been seeing for 5 years. Well, you're being so negative. Why can't you just give them some credit? Because Genshin can solve most of their problems right now in one update.
True. Which is why I have a bit of an expectation for like the upcoming versions from version 6.1 to the future until like the end of version 6 of Genshin. I have some expectation of certain updates, not because of any leaks I've seen, because I don't dive deep into Genshin leaks about what optimization comes into the game, but simply because of, you know, expectations I have, which is one, I hope that through version 6 of Genshin, at whatever update patch it'll be, they'll be like, oh, you can replay limited time event stories, or they have been implemented as permanent content in the game, where all players will be able to play this, new and old. Because, you know, there's a disconnect between players who played the game on day one versus players who played the game on like year 2, year 3, and so on, right? When it comes down to limited time events content, right? That have important story beats that play a role in the active main story of the game, right? People who played that first lore heavy event, some people didn't, and some people will never get to experience it. Right? When you meet Scaramouche for the first time, people who played that event got to meet him for the first time. Other people who didn't play that event and came into the game late by a month or by a year, they saw Scaramouche for the first time in Inazuma when he appeared in that factory, and that's their first interaction with him. Personally, I want everyone who plays the Genshin Impact to have the same exact experience when playing the game and feel the exact same timeline as everyone else, right? So no one can have some different timeline when it comes down to like, oh, I didn't play the limited time event, but everyone else did, so I missed out on it. Like I want them to fix that personally. But anyway, let's continue.
You're telling me that they can't update the resin bank and get rid of condensed resin?
Oh, this is another thing that I disagreed with him a lot in this video. So let's listen to this.
Genshin can solve most of their problems right now in one update. You're telling me that they can't update the resin bank and
yeah, they should increase the resin bank. Even I've said that. I want it at 2,400. Well, at least that's the energy overflow cap. But you get the point, because Starwell and Zenless has it. Let's continue.
get rid of condensed resin.
Get rid of condensed resin? Why do we want condensed resin removed? That makes no sense. People want condensed resin to actually increase the cap of how many you can hold. So that doesn't make sense to remove that. Why should we have that removed? That doesn't make no sense.
One update. You're telling me that they can't update the resin bank and get rid of condensed resin, get rid of encounter points?
Why in the world would they get rid of encounter points when encounter points was the updated version of daily quests in Genshin? You know, the thing people bitched about a lot back in the early years of Genshin, like within the first 3 years, something people bitched about constantly about, oh man, I can't believe I gotta go do this daily commission and go run around doing errands. Oh man, this is wasting time. Oh man, how tedious this is. And then when Genshin updates it during like version 4 of the game, it was sometime around version 4 or version 5. I can't remember which update it was, but it was version 4. Sometime in version 4, I can't remember what update it was, but they sat there and updated the freaking daily commission thing so that instead of doing daily commissions, you can just run around playing the game, go explore, go do a Spiral Abyss, go do a Magnum Theater, go do anything in the game, and you will acquire the points needed to finish doing your daily commissions. And then you just go to Catherine and then just like get their extra rewards, or the commission reward that you will get for doing your daily commissions. And not only that, if you just run around, those encounter point stuff give you extra rewards. So not only are you getting rewards from doing the daily commissions that you always get, but you're getting a little bit extra on top of it. Why do we want that removed? You know, something that's a objectively good implementation into the game? Brother, what are you talking about? Let's continue.
And solve most of their problems right now in one update. You're telling me that they can't update the resin bank and get rid of condensed resin, get rid of encounter points, make all domains open all the time?
Now this is valid. Make domains open all the time. I agree. Granted, I do think they did something that is interesting, which is when a new playable character banner gets released and it's a new character, they have the domain open, I think all week long or all month long. I can't remember, or like for like 3 weeks long. I can't remember what exactly they said in the live stream. I got to go back and check that live stream for where they said about how long those domains last for. But this is something that is permanent in the game now, which is any new character that comes out, all the domains open up so that you can go grind every day to level up said character. This isn't to say that you can only level up that one character, but the domains open up so you can be able to level up that character and any other character you want to level up. Right? This is a objectively good optimization. Now, is it 100% what we wanted? No, it's not. Is it better than what we had before? Yeah, it is.
Remove stamina outside of combat.
Remove stamina outside combat. I'm a little iffy about that. Like, why? If anything, we shouldn't have stamina removed outside of combat. I'd argue that we need the stamina cap to be increased. I hate the fact that the stamina cap in Genshin stops at 240. I want the stamina cap to increase beyond 240, because it doesn't make sense to me that for every 2 statues, you have 2 statues, right? You have to max out 2 statues in order to get your max stamina cap to hit 240. But we have 6 statues that exist in the game now. We should be having 240 times 3 worth of stamina in the game right now, but we don't. I want an increase in the stamina cap. I don't want the stamina cap removed because, it should only exist during combat and not outside of it. No, let that be a Withering Waves exclusive thing. Not every damn thing Genshin does needs to be exactly what Withering Waves does. Because at that point, people just want Genshin to be Withering Waves. And then at that point, Genshin doesn't have its own identity. Like, if you want to be able to run around without, wasting stamina in combat, Withering Waves exist. To expect that of Genshin to do that, let's be real, they're more than likely not going to do that shit. If they do, good job. If they don't, let's be for real. There's no issue with the stamina existing in combat and outside of it. And also that I would also like to say this as well. Why are we sitting here acting like, because the way he's talking like, oh my god, if I have stamina while climbing, it's gonna be a problem. Yeah, like they didn't implement, exploration mechanics into the game itself where you don't have to worry about that problem, or the amount of times they slapped stamina orbs on the wall. Because I noticed that they did this in Sumeru. There's stamina orbs on the wall or on the ground that replenish your stamina when you're climbing or running around. Like, they kind of covered their bases for this. So why should we have their stamina cap removed in combat? Or removed, when we're running around the open world? Why? When they've already covered their bases for that.
Give pity to 4 stars. Buff order.
Give pity to 4 stars. Does Withering Wave do this? If Withering Waves doesn't do this, I don't care. Give pity to 4 stars. I've been playing this game for 5 years now for Genshin Impact, and I've managed to get every last 4-star in the game. Now, have I been able to get every last one of their constellations? No, that came along with the passage of time, depending on what character was on what banner, right? If a 4-star character was on a banner that I was pulling for, more than likely I got extra copies of that character and got them to C6. If they weren't, obviously I didn't get extra copies of them. Right? But hey, increasing the pity to ensure that people get the 4-star character, regardless, I'm still down for that. I ain't got no problem with that. Shoot, if anything, they should be able to make it easier to get the 4-star character from the shop that's in game. Because Genshin Impact's in-game shop, you have to spend 34 coin or whatever in order to obtain an extra copy of the 4-star, or just obtain the 4-star in general that's in the store at the time. Personally, I want the amount that you need to spend for that to be lowered, and I'd also like, if they do increase the pity, let's say they do increase the pity for 4 stars, I want the pity for 4 stars to be increased when it comes down to the standard banner. Because we know every character in the game gets thrown on the standard banner, except for, obviously, the limited 5-star characters. That means 4-star characters get slapped on that standard banner, including 4-star weapons. The standard 5-star weapons get thrown on there as well, and standard characters. So, in my opinion, the standard banner's pity for 4 stars should be increased. Granted, I would have no issue with it increasing across the board for even limited banners.
Older units and add artifact loadouts.
I ain't gonna lie, not having an artifact loadout doesn't really hinder, the gameplay. Granted, if we're being honest, most characters only need like 1 or 2 artifacts. But then again, loadout still would be a good idea. Like, I'm not opposed to it. I'm just thinking about it.
I didn't even get to all of it, but I just think it's interesting how they had all this time to make a whole sandbox mode and they can't click a couple of buttons to make the game 50% better. Anyways, regardless of that, the UGC does look pretty interesting. What this tells me is that they...
From how you was talking earlier, it didn't sound interesting. It sounded like you believe that it wasn't worth the effort to even have this in the first place, and this shit is trash.
Look at themselves like a Fortnite who knew they couldn't live off of the hype of their release forever, so they created more avenues to experience their game. They've actually had a lot of success with it, considering a lot of the younger generation picked up Fortnite in recent years. But the difference between a game like that and Genshin is that dev team listens, maybe a little too much. So given that the UGC isn't brutally monetized like the main game, then we could be looking at something that could breathe new life into Genshin. And I'm sorry for saying ZZZ had the worst boss design I've ever seen, because that title might actually have to go to Genshin Impact. Do I need to remind you that there was a tutorial on how to climb these abyss pillars without Natlan units?
Bruh.
Why the fuck is someone is always on the side of the pillar? I'm gonna say this right now. This whole, I ain't gonna lie, people, when I saw Pharaohs in particular bitch about this, my first complaint was, why in the hell are you not using the character they gave to you for free, aka Kachina? Is Kachina going to contribute to the team's overall damage? Of course not. We know that. But to sit here and act like you can't use Kachina to get up here, the character you got for free to break these pillars down just so you can clap that boss, why are we not using a tool that was given to you for free to handle the problem? People want to sit here and say, oh, Genshin makes a problem, and then they sell you the solution. But when they give the solution to you for free and you don't use it, I have to look at you sideways and be like, what the fuck are you doing?
Bruh.
Even I didn't do this shit on some real shit. When I saw videos of people pumping this around, talking about something, oh, climb the freaking rock a certain way, I was like, F all that. I'm using Kachina. What the crap is this video? Right? That was my first reaction. Also, why in the hell would someone not use like a standard 5-star character? Kuching, the 5-star character that was first revealed in the game back when the game launched, being one of the first characters with a traversal ability that allowed for her to aim her, her little teleport point into the air to then get higher into the air. And you can also use it in combat. Shocker. Why isn't this individual using that? It was just so dumb just seeing this. It's so stupid. What the whose clip is this? I hope this is not your clip, bro. If I find out this is your clip, I'm gonna roll my eyes. Why in the F are you trying to climb that without just tapping her elemental skill so you can ride up there? Again, the tool is in your hand, but you're not using the tool? Like, come on.
They were making you do tech that you had to go research in order to interact with the game mechanic. It's already...
Or rather, they gave you the tools to handle the game mechanic. Even the tutorial in the game told you about how to deal with the game mechanic. But then niggas want to ignore that and bitch about, oh, I gotta pull for a character to engage with this mechanic, despite the fact you were given a character for free that allowed for you to easily deal and crush that mechanic.
It's already bad enough that they've created artificial difficulty in the Spiral Abyss, but their ideas for a quote-unquote new endgame haven't aged well. In fact, the Imaginarium Theater recently just got updated, and sadly, they forgot to just remove the entire game mode. Instead, they decided to add a new mode with my new least favorite word, lunar. And anytime anything endgame related is added into Genshin at this point, you should know to brace for impact, because it's about to be complete bullshit. Compared to the previous hardest mode, Visionary, you need to use 6 more characters on top of what was already required, which has us at 28 units required. And then if you want extra stat buffs, you're looking at 32 units you need to own. So you know what that means. In a couple years, they'll require you to have the whole goddamn roster to even walk into the theater. By the way, this isn't even talking about the elemental restrictions yet, because remember in the Imaginarium Theater, you can only use characters from a certain element. It would be great if there was actually more of an incentive to pull older units or just getting more pulls in general. And remember, a good build takes weeks or even months to get, even if certain...
Hold up. Let me go back.
That means in a couple years, new mode, they forgot to just remove the entire game mode. Instead, they decided to add a new mode with my new least favorite word, lunar. And anytime anything endgame related is added into Genshin at this point, you should know to brace for impact because it's about to be...
At this point, if anybody's sitting here having a damn heart attack about what in-game mode Genshin does, at this point, just stop playing the damn game and stop stressing over it at this point. And this isn't to say, oh, I'm defending a billion dollar company in their game. I'm just saying you clearly are stressing too much if you're that worried about it. It's not that big of a deal. We're playing a single player game here. Calm down. Breathe. Get your ball bearings together.
Complete.
Honestly, every time I hear someone complain about in-game and Genshin, at first I sigh and be like, okay, let's see what this is about. What's the complaint now? That's how my reaction usually is.
Bullshit. Compared to the previous hard...
Also, let me read this. Lunar mode difficulty challenging before the beginning. Add at least 20 from the start. At 30 for each extra character added, you'll obtain current buffs. Characters has reached level 70. You can invite who's about to cast. This season's elements: Hydro, Electro, and Geo. Interesting. Trying to see what exactly the issue is here, other than it being a new difficulty mode, It said characters have to have at least reached level 70. Most characters reach level 90. Adding 32 characters for each. Yeah, this game mode is not even meant for players who have, let's say, a bare bone amount of characters on their account. This in-game mode is clearly for people who still play the game to this day, and on top of that, have at least, I would say, 2-3 years worth of characters on their account to even engage in this in-game mode. Like, I don't even engage in this in-game mode like that. Personally, that's just me. Not because I think it's bad, but simply because I think, well, none of my characters are properly built to even engage in the in-game mode, personally. Because, I don't build my characters properly.
Hardest mode, Visionary, you need to use 6 more characters on top of what was already required, which has us at 28 units required. And then if you want extra stat buffs, you're looking at 32 units you need to own. So you know what that means. In a couple years, they'll require you to have the whole goddamn roster to even...
I have the majority of Genshin's roster. The only thing I'm missing are certain 5-star units. At least, I think I'm missing like... At first, I was missing like 15 5-star characters. Now I think I'm missing like 20.
Even walk into the theater. By the way, this isn't even talking about the elemental restrictions yet, because remember...
What's the problem with elemental restrictions?
In the Imaginarium Theater, you can only use characters from a certain element. It would be great...
What is the problem with that? What is the problem with a dev team making elemental reactions a part of their, games, combat mechanics, and then introducing a game mode that is like, yo, you bring specific elements to this fight? What exactly is the problem with that? I would like to know what the problem is for that. Because if Weather and Waves did something different where they're like, oh, bring Havoc character, bring Glacial character, bring Spectral character. Like, hey, I would love to know if anybody's really going to complain about that. Actually, they kind of already do this already with their in-game modes anyway. Right? Pretty sure, like, Tower of Adversity, you need to bring certain elemental types to that fight still. And certain things that characters do, like, oh, this character amplifies heavy attack damage, bring them, and so on and so forth, right?
Great if there was actually more of an incentive.
Of course, you can correct me if I'm wrong about that.
can only use characters from a certain element. It would be great if there was actually more of an incentive to pull older units or just getting more pulls in general. And remember, a good build takes
an incentive to pull for older units. Why are we acting like people don't still pull for Nahida? Nahida is a unit that came out in like version 3 of the game. That's about 3 years back. Or 2 years back, however you want to count it. Nahida is technically an old unit at this point. Why are we acting like people don't still pull for her? What's another old unit I can think of? I mean, Alakino is about a year old, so I would deem her an old unit now. Unless you're talking about old units like Albedo or Mona. Like, Mona still is great to use, and she's an old unit. And the reason I know this is because a friend of mine is a Mona main. He loves Mona, and he has her, I believe, at C6. And she's a standard character, and the damage he gets out of her is still immaculate. And shoot, he even puts Auroron on her team so that he can get that Electro Hydro buff thing going on. Which then makes me think even more so that it would make sense to bring Auroron onto a team with Lunar Charge characters, so that you can have Lunar Charge and Electro Charge reaction, getting buffed, or at least one of them getting buffed.
You can only use characters from a certain element. It would be great if there was actually more of an incentive to pull older units or just getting more pulls in general. And
I mean, I would say we are getting more pulls when there's a whole new region to explore. Unless, I would love to know if someone can do the math for me. Hopefully someone in the comment section can do the math for me. How many pulls do we get every time there's a X.0 update drops, right? Where a whole new region to explore, or when they drop a new sub region to explore. How many pulls do we usually get from that? I refuse to believe in the idea that when Genshin releases new areas in the game for people to explore, we somehow get less pulls from that. It's kind of hard for me to believe that, especially knowing how big the area is and know how many chests and world quests and all the other stuff laying about. So someone can correct me on that point. I know Zillus gives at least 100 pulls per patch, so I know that for a fact.
And remember, a good build takes weeks or even months to get, even if you spend thousands on this game. And you have
weeks or months to get. I mean, yeah. But like I said earlier, they did kind of somewhat fix that issue with, allowing for you to farm domains all throughout a week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks when a new 5-star character drops and the domains open up entirely for you. So I think they kind of mitigated that problem.
Characters already built to challenge this mode. There are still restrictions like boss mechanics being completely RNG. At least make the end result easy for people who are funding Nexus Anima for you. They need.
But I find it kind of crazy. I find it kind of funny too. Is people sit here and say, "Oh, Genshin the easiest game ever," and then they'll sit here and complain about boss mechanics, which I'm gonna say right now. The complaints about boss mechanics, whether it needs, you need certain element type to deal with it or certain reaction type to deal with it, I ain't gonna lie. When I hear complaints about that, I roll my eyes because it's like you're playing a game that has elemental reactions in it, and the devs are creating bosses who want you to beat them with elemental reactions, whether it's an elemental reaction you like or dislike, or that you don't even use a lot like that. So why aren't we engaging with the mechanic? Now, the Lunar Charge reaction and any new boss that comes with that mechanic of being like, oh, you want Lunar Charge to beat this boss, whatever. Now, that would be a problem because, Lunar, the aspect of a Lunar Charge or Lunar Bloom, that whole aspect isn't an element in itself. The whole Lunar aspect is a passive ability that non-card characters have. Well, certain ones, because Aino doesn't have the ability to, use Lunar Charge reactions. She just is a Hydro applicator. And that's it, which kind of sucks that they kind of did her like that. But anyway.
Mode, there are still restrictions like boss mechanics being completely RNG. At least make the end result easy for people who are funding Nexus Anima for you. They need to make an end game that free-to-plays can access instead of just a race against the timer.
And does Withering Wave not do the same thing where you have to deal with a timer as well? Again, why are we talking like this is Genshin exclusive? This is something all the Hoyo games have, and even Wuthering Waves has, which is the timer thing. Personally, if they don't want to remove the timer, increase the damn duration of that damn timer. That's how I feel about it personally. And be a little more lenient on like the stipulations of completing the your runtime through a Spiral Abyss or whatever other in-game mode from these other games, right? That's how I would want it personally, because more realistic, if you're being honest, that's more realistic that they would do, increase the timer versus removing the timer altogether, right?
They need to make an end game that free-to-plays can access instead of just a race against the timer.
I mean, free-to-play characters can have access to these game modes. Well, not every last one of them. Like, I don't expect a free-to-play player to fare well in Imaginum Theater, because, again, like I said earlier, that's a game mode that requires you to have at least a whole bunch of characters on your account. And free-to-play players, more than likely, do not have the auto characters on their account, realistically. So, yeah. You need at least, like I said, 2 or 3 years worth of playing the game to even engage in that combat, in that game mode. For Spiral Abyss, you just need whatever team fits the stipulation for floors 9 through 12. Personally, I get up all the way up to floor 11 and like get to like the third floor of floor 11, and then that's where I kind of stop. I don't bother going to floor 12 because there's no need for me to do when I got like a whole bunch of stuff to explore, and because I just don't feel like doing floor 12.
They need to make an end game that free-to-plays can access instead of just a race against the timer. Oh, did I mention we need more pulls? It's funny that people say you don't need certain characters to make other units work, but they also don't understand that as the damage ceiling gets higher, that literally becomes the case. These new DPS characters come out with actual incomplete kits that can only be completed with their partner. Do you realize that at the rate Genshin is moving now, Maoika will get power crept fairly soon? I know, it sounds crazy, but it will happen, especially when
By whom?
Columbina is finally released. Considering
if that was the case, right? If that was absolutely the truth of the matter, right? Why didn't Skirk power creep Mavuika? Because Skirk came out after Mavuika. Unless we want to talk about pyro characters in particular, but there hasn't been a new pyro DPS, and more than likely the new pyro character Durin is. I'm not even sure Durin is even going to be a DPS character. I think Durin is like a support character. But anyway, like I said, if that was the case, why didn't Skirk power creep Mavuika? Because Skirk, like I said, came out after Mavuika by like a couple months. So she should have been, clapping Mavuika in terms of power and DPS and all the other dandy stuff, right? But she didn't. Like, again, when it comes down to this whole power creep thing, we need to be realistic with this. We need to be honest about and be a little more nuanced about it when it comes to the Genshin Impact. The space in between pyro DPSs was lengthy. The most powerful pyro DPS at the time was Hu Tao, right? No one took that spot from her until Arlecchino. And mind you, this is years afterward. Then when Arlecchino came out, people were talking about Hu Tao been power crept, And it's like, well, yeah, naturally. And on top of that, the way Arlecchino moves, in my opinion, feels a lot more smoother than, Hu Tao. In terms of like popping elemental skill and elemental burst. To me, I just like Arlecchino's better. But like, why are we not acknowledging that these characters had a whole gap of time before they were quote unquote power creeped? Even with Arlecchino. Arlecchino came out in like what, version 4.7, 4.6? Can't remember which one. And there was a whole bunch of months worth of time before, Mavuika came out. Right? What is it? Let's count from 4.6. 4.6, 4.7, 4.8. No, 4.6, 4.7, 5.0, 5.1, 5.2, 5.3. So that's about 4 months worth of time. Granted, that's a little shorter. But even then, Mavuika came out as a very powerful pyro DPS thanks to Seat Lali. Mainly, I believe, it's because of Seat Lali. But Seat Lali and her ability that she has not just benefits Mavuika, but also benefits Arlecchino and any of the pyro DPS in the game, or even hydro DPS in the game. Right? And my Arlecchino still, is gas right now.
Considering how well Malika did, why don't they just do it all over again? Columbina will be the best character in the game by shattering the damage ceiling. She'll only want Nodcry characters on her team, and she'll be released alongside her partner. This isn't even theory crafting either. It's just common sense because...
I mean, yeah, sure. But again, what is the issue with releasing the best in slot teammate for said character before, the DPS is released? Because again, if you're going to give this criticism towards Genshin, you need to keep it a beanstack and give it to Withering Waves as well. Because Withering Waves, again, is not exempt from this. They do it too.
Because that's how they found the most success. And I'm sure if you're a dedicated free-to-play, you'll let me know if I'm wrong. Because I know you look at leaks. I'm not blaming you because you literally have to in order to plan your pulls. But you shouldn't have to do that in order to be able to clear endgame content. Genshin Impact has had a pretty good story recently, but the storytelling is still awful, and I
hard disagree. Storytelling actually got better.
Don't think they'll budge when it comes to that. This is pretty much...
So we're not going to acknowledge cutscenes, not 2D artwork pictures they've given. We're not going to acknowledge how they presented character stories in a very fluid and well-paced manner so you can understand the characters appropriately, or toward even like a little more darker stories for some of these characters. But yeah, sure, the storytelling's still bad, I suppose.
Much just a story game for a free-to-play at this point because they refuse to fix basic problems that could be solved in 5 minutes. The Nodcry plot can only carry them so far, so I'm sure they'll stretch out Nodcry and Snezhnaya as long as possible to nickel and dime you for as many years as possible.
We know the Nodcry story is going to last an entire year. Realistically, I expect Snezhnaya's story to only last until about version 0.3, seeing as every other Archon quest has done that. Nodcry is the only one that seems to be a special case, because even the devs themselves stated that Nodcry would be a special case of the story lasting for an entire year, which is new for Genshin. And it was also new for Star Rail as well, with the Amphorius chapter.
There is still a ton of characters that people have been waiting on for years, like the Tsaritsa, who they will hold over your head for years to come. The normal reaction to seeing a character that you like in a story is wanting to use one of those characters for yourself. Don't lie to yourself. Maybe Genshin has conditioned you to quote-unquote not want a character, but if you're free...
Well, I don't have that feeling. And I'm not free to play. I'm a low spender. But like... I don't even have to ask, why are free-to-play players engaging in in-game content? Because, like, in-game content is only actually difficult mainly because of HP inflation, obviously, and, of course, like, whatever the buff stipulation is for the Spiral Abyss reset in particular, right? Depending on what the stipulation is for the buff, depends on whether or not it's going to be good or detrimental to you. At least for a free-to-play character, or free-to-play player, or a player who had just haven't pulled for the new character that's, tied to that, Abyss buff.
You're free to play, most of the time, that's just because you can't get that unit. Genshin has had the tools to create a long-lasting game, and now more than ever is a perfect time to deliver.
I mean, they have the tools to make a long-lasting game, yeah, sure, because we know that Genshin is still around. Genshin is still being talked about, regardless of, negative or good light. So the tools have already been used to make Genshin a long-lasting game, as we can see, because we're still talking about it. The game still exists. It hasn't EOS. But I do agree with the sentiment of there are things Genshin can, update during this whole era of version 6, which I agree with. Yeah, there are some updates I'm really hoping for that they do actually do. But I won't be ignorant to the fact that there are updates that they have done before version 6 that are objectively good. For example, when it comes down to like going into the domains to like, farm for resin or artifacts or whatever, or weapon material, right? They introduced a function that allows for you to like spend, instead of 20 resin, you spend 40. And if you spend 40, you get 3 times the amount of the rewards that you would usually get. I've been doing that a lot lately for grinding for like XP books or even certain artifacts or even certain like XP material for like talent material or even weapon material, and it's been really useful and helpful to do. So
create a long-lasting game, and now more than ever is a perfect time to deliver. The first of the new generation of gacha games are close to release, and Hoyo might miss their window to retain a large chunk of their player base.
I mean, we said this when it came down to Wuthering Waves, and where Genshin's still moving.
See Azure Permilia. Wait, actually, I don't know if I even want to talk about
Azure Permilia. I got high hopes for, and I respect their character design and them not being afraid to make certain characters. And I'm gonna be honest, if this deters you from playing Azure Permilia because of this, bro, just go kick rocks. This is the least of your concern. Because if you have this underlying implication when you see something like this, and then think to yourself or imply to not just yourself but to other individuals that, oh, they're pandering to a certain audience, you need to go ahead and kick rocks now, because you're implying something criminal that they're doing which you have no proof of.
about this game because most of the clips have chibi characters.
Like, that's a problem. What's the problem with that? I mean, if you don't like it, that's cool, but like, what's the objective problem with that?
Actually, you know what? Editor, keep that shit in there. Just keep it in there. Anyways, I see this title appealing to a lot of the Genshin audience due to the aesthetic, especially if they don't monetize the Pokeballs or whatever the capturing devices are called. If that game doesn't interest you at all, I don't blame you. But Do at Night Abyss comes out very soon. And even if you don't like games like this, I encourage you to at least try it, because if you love gacha games, you do not want Hoyoverse holding a monopoly in this market for the next 5 years.
I mean, yeah, sure, obviously. But we need to also recognize that this competition that's coming out is not exclusively for Hoyoverse, or in particular Genshin Impact. It's for Wuthering Waves too. Ananta is not Genshin Impact's competitor. Ananta is Wuthering Waves' competitor. And let's be freaking for real, Ananta is already blowing Wuthering Waves out the effing water based on pure gameplay alone of what we saw already. Might as well just go ahead, close the book, son.
Because every single game that comes out in the future will have to give in to the predatory model that they push in their titles. Okay, this is a good one.
But that's not true, because we know Ananta, is not gonna have a gacha in it. Dual Night Abyss also not gonna have a gacha in it.
Market for the next 5 years, because every single game that comes out in the future will have to give in to the predatory model that they push in their titles. Okay.
I mean, if that was the case, right? Genshin remained, not Genshin, but Hoyoverse remained, handling the market for like 4 years, and we knew about Ananta, we knew about NTE, we knew about all these other gacha games coming out, like during version 4 of Genshin, before we went to version 5, and like midway through version 5 or beginning of version 5, right? So we already know this is not entirely true. I mean, Wuthering Waves followed the gacha, route. We know that they did that, but Ananta, like I said, Ananta, Dual Night Abyss. I don't know about NTE. I don't know what gacha going to be for them, but the other two, yeah, they clearly not following the same trend, obviously.
Okay, this is a good one. Your word of the day is wuwa. I have a video representation instead of a definition today.
Rambling. But if most plants are perfectly content to stay in one place, why does the tumbleweed hit the open road?
So let me know what gacha game you play. Thank you so much for watching this far if you have. I feel like I'm missing something. Don't I usually say something else right now?
Well, probably not. Hold on, let me keep listening. Nope. Anyway, I think that's the end of the video. It's going on 4:44 in the morning. I need to stop. Anyway, I said 4:44, right? No, it's 1:44. I think I said that correctly, but anyway. I expressed a lot of disagreements with this video, obviously. Kind of things. Certain things he didn't provide examples to. Something things I'm like, I don't think that's too big of a deal. Like, because again, we're playing a gacha game and all this stuff. Like, I've given my opinion, right? The video in question, I don't think the video is a bad video. I understand the underlying sentiment of hoping that during version 6 of Genshin, well, more so, that's my hope rather than his, is that during version 6 of Genshin, we get a lot of, like, very important updates to the game that people have been wanting for. Right? I'm in particular looking out for any update related to permanent time event stuff being made permanent in the game, like how Zenless and Starwell have done. Because if, like, I've even said this in a stream here on YouTube, that if Zenless and Starwell can have their permanent time events, or certain ones be permanent because it ties to the story or has character interactions and stuff like that, if Starwell and Zenless can do it, there's no reason Genshin can't do it. Unless there's like some technical difficulties when it comes down to like the engine or whatever, or the coding or whatever. If so, okay, I get it. But at the same time, those two managed to do it. So we should be able to make Genshin be able to do it too. Anyway, I think that's the end of the video, my reaction. Tell me how y'all felt about the video in the comment section. And I'll leave a link to the original creator in the description so you can check the video out for yourself and all the other dandy stuff. I don't know if I'll react to more of his content or not. We'll see. Anyway, like, sub, turn on the notification bell, join my YouTube community Discord if you want to. The link is on the channel. And all the other dandy stuff. I'll see you later. Good night and bye.